welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about adding the first life into the tank, of course not including the bacteria we cycled the dry rock with, and also getting our first couple fish into quarantine, which is pretty exciting. For the last, I don't know how many tanks over I don't know how many years, I've always started my tanks with the same thing, and that is a critter kit from Indo Pacific Sea Farms. And you know, they have the typical some snails and amphipods that you can get elsewhere, but they also have some pretty unique items that I haven't found elsewhere and I think are becoming kind of increasingly rare. And so I always start my tanks like this, and it adds a good amount of biodiversity and activates your sand from the get-go. So here we are on the Indo Pacific Sea Farms website, and they are based out of Hawaii, and everything is captive bred, which is great. And this mix and match special is kind of their main gig. It's 99 bucks and includes shipping, and you get to choose 9 items. And so I chose the baby bristleworms, the wonder mud, these two snail grazers, Nerite and Latornid, and reef amphipods, the amphipod breeding kit, and then the live sand activator, which is, I think, one of the best things in the kit. If you want to take it up a notch, you can also add in for 20 bucks each these super mix and match special items, and I got the reef amphipods, the mini stars, and the Mamma Mia worms, and then if you add 3 of them, you get an additional 6 mini stars. So it's a pretty good deal. They ship 2-day air, and I've never had a problem with that. Everything has always arrived in great shape. And when things arrive, each of the items in the kit is individually bagged and comes with kind of some seaweed, I think, to keep them happy during the journey. And, you know, I'm trying to show you stuff in the bag, but you can't really make it out on film. So, but everything always arrives in great shape. And here's the live sand activator, which along with the wonder mud is probably the best thing in the kit. This will inoculate your sand bed with biodiversity and probably have a broader range of critters because it's actual live sand than you will get from just live rock itself. Now, before you add this type of baseline biodiversity to your tank, make sure that your cycle is complete. We pre-cycled our dry rock and also added about 10 pounds of maricultured live rock, so we've got kind of a good baseline. And also make sure that this stuff has something to eat. So if you don't have live rock, adding pellets every day or something so they have something to eat in there is pretty important. And that, in the beginning stages of a tank, will also keep your biological filter going as well. I'll also be adding some of these critters to the refugium, and that would just give that a head start as well. You know, a lot of these critters will make it down into the refugium eventually anyway, but just going to give it a little head start. And to create some habitat for the critters, I'm making these little trays, and I just found these trays. They were a couple bucks each, so I just bought them. I'm cutting some slits in the bottom for water flow, and I'll just fill them up with some wonder mud and also some other kind of reef rubble, essentially, to create habitat for pods and other critters. Now, after I add all this stuff, I'm basically not going to add any fish for about 2 months. And that's basically out of an abundance of caution, just to make sure if there's any nasties in the live sand activator or any of the other stuff that goes into the tank, any ictomons or anything like that, I'm going to let those kind of run their course without adding any host fish possibly for about 2 months. Here they are in the fuge with Wondermon on the bottom and then this coral rubble. And I've got 3 stacks of these, so 9 trays total. And I also keep some marine pure spheres in here, which I use to kickstart the biological filtration on my QT systems. So here is the first fish for the tank, which is a Copperband Butterflyfish, one of my favorite fish of all time, and honestly a fish I've never kept, a fish that I've wanted to keep for a long time, but really didn't feel like I had the experience or the confidence or the size tank that could really give this fish its best life. So this may seem like an odd choice for a first fish for a tank, but there is a benefit of getting kind of a more fragile, finicky fish like this into a tank without any other fish in the tank to bother it initially. Getting it really comfortable, let it settle in, get it feeding really, really well. And because it's not an aggressive fish, you shouldn't really have a problem adding fish with it already in the tank. So when you're drip acclimating like this, water temperatures can drop actually pretty quickly with such a small water volume in a bucket like this. So adding a little heater is a pretty good idea. This is just a 25 watt neotherm heater, which I use just for acclimating fish, and it does a good job. So after acclimation and being treated with Safety Stop, the 2 different baths of Safety Stop, the butterflyfish went into the quarantine system, and also 2 clownfish, which were shipped to me by mistake. So I had canceled the order, and then a week later they showed up on my doorstep. So that was kind of funny. But everything has been in quarantine for about 4 weeks now. They've been given their general cure treatment as well, and they're doing pretty well. So I will be doing a how-to on getting a copperband butterflyfish to eat. That seems to be the perennial problem with this fish, of getting a healthy specimen and then transitioning it to aquarium life and getting it to eat reliably. So, you know, I learned a lot during this process. I watched every single video I could find, and none of them were really specific enough for me. So I hope that a how-to video eventually will be useful. I tried, honestly, every single food under the sun, and the only thing that really got this fish to start eating was live blackworms, which are kind of the caviar of the fish food world. But that worked initially, and then kind of through a process which I'm going to call pipette training, transitioned through a couple other foods, and finally to frozen mysis, which it takes pretty readily, as you can see. So fast forward about another month, and after not a whole lot else going on in the tank other than letting it cook, the copperband went in with the 2 clownfish. And this is just an absolutely stunning fish. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's fattened up quite a bit. It comes up and says hello when you approach the tank. It's got a great personality, and just really rewarding to get it through quarantine and getting it to feed and seeing it in the tank now. That's it for now, everyone. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we will see you next time.